much as the mayor gets, he won't take anything for free. He buys his tickets for.
Top of the afternoon.
You buy,
I'd be convinced.
there you go. So like when he like purchases tickets to places. Yeah, he won't let, and I always say, but it's the Monarchs, or it's the Speedway, or it's and you go. He says he's better off.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is, because he can't sneeze.
So when they give him, like, they'll give him hats and jackets and shirts and stuff. He actually has a basket. We have to put the stuff in. And like when kids come, like, he has students come visit, he'll let them pick, from like notebooks
That's pretty neat.
to pens to, so it's really cool to see them because they're like, oh, wow. Or like, he gets stuff like, Apple pens, or can't remember what the last big one was, but he'll give it to like, during the Christmas tree lighting,
Yeah.
but he utilizes them. He just won't, he'll say, I'm accepting these, but what we do is we give these away.
Yeah, that's a pretty.
He'll tell people, I usually give it to people in our community. So, so he doesn't have to, and I get it now, because I always sit there and go, I can't take that. He'll go, I wouldn't.
How's that tree lighting coming along? Pretty good?
Really, I mean, we're way ahead of schedule from last year, thank goodness.
Good deal.
What we're doing is really trying to, we lucked out last year. It was one of the best days. So what we're doing is trying to anticipate what could be the worst, right? So if everything has to be inside, we use, of course, the third floor, not.
Hey, Scott.
Do you need any trees? Or do you have all your decorations and everything?
Good, how you been?
I'll have to ask, let me talk to, building logistics.
Okay,
They're the ones that handle like this.
okay. We bought 22 trees for the TALP program. And they're not gonna have that big thing that they usually have in Christmas. So they gave away a bunch of them, and we still have 8 of them left at the PAL. So we've got 8 6-foot trees
Do you remember when we used to be able to decorate the trees
downstairs all the time. Yeah.
all the time? I said that to them, we started meeting at the beginning of like, summer. And, they were like, trees, and, so John remembered that some of the staff didn't.
Oh,
But yeah.
that's been a few days back.
We used to.
Yeah,
do that.
was it
Yeah.
that far back?
Right.
And then they took it away.
What did they take away?
The Christmas decorating trees, put them up.
So we,
Around the office.
Well, our group actually won the first place prize
we,
of when the trees were in. God, that's been
For decorating.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because all I remember is, we won a few places, never first place, but we won a few places. But I do remember that, and I said, well, it was so difficult, because we had to come decorate, and it wasn't as if, if you set them up, then we will come and decorate.
Yeah,
But-
John set them up, and then the groups came up and decorated.
Did 'em. Well, the mayor's big on the gingerbread.
Oh, okay.
Contest. That's what he really wants.
We done it.
But
We done it, the gingerbread. We can't make a house out of it.
So, but let me ask, I didn't even bring.
We used to do a tree front office. I was up on River. Secretaries used to do it. Executive secretary and receptionist used to do it. They made it real pretty. And then the manager retired, and we got a new manager. And he was anti-Christmas.
Really?
Oh, he's an atheist, so he wasn't in good. So anyway, he made it a point the day after Christmas, which was like a holiday still, because it was, the holiday weekend. He came in at 8 o'clock that morning and took the trip.
After shits.
Yeah. We had, where I was, we were in a back area and it was really secure. We had a little tree about a foot tall that we used to decorate, leaf plugged in.
Mhm.
And he came in and took that, and he put it up on the shelf. We took it back down and put it in. It's like,
Which one, which manager was that?
huh?
Who was that?
Omus. Yeah, Jerry Omus, he was up at Energy Control. So yeah, he was so,
People play.
man, I'll tell you what, he was a gamer. But we had, they did a lot for charity too.
If we play in the golf tournament every year. Yeah, my brothers and I. So far, what, $800,000 to the kids' charities
Right.
in the community, so
Yeah.
that's a pretty good chunk of change.
Yes, it is. That's cool. Yeah. And they always have good causes too.
Always, yeah.
You know? Money goes to them. They split
And
it up.
it stays local.
Yes.
That's what I like.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we need.
How all them damn kids out there beating that ball 300 and 400 yards. Those old guys, we don't have a chance.
Well, when I used to be able to drive, I had an old timer tell me, short and straight, he beat me every time.
I played with a deacon in the Lutheran church one time, and he was 83 years old then. And you could stretch a string from tee to green, and it wouldn't be a foot off either side, every hit, and right up the middle. Yeah, he told me one time, I hit a green one time on my drive, 270 yards out or whatever the hell it was. He said, "It's smart ass, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You know the definition of smart ass? That's a guy can sit on a nice and come and tell you the flavor."
Thank you, Deacon.
Thought some damn Lutherans are good people then.
Yeah.
That Pell program, have you been introduced to it?
Huh?
Police athletically,
Okay, I've heard.
yeah, it's a hell of a program. They got about 1,300 kids that they're serving, inner city kids, teaching the box and they got a garden. They just planted, grapevines. They got archery, they got, gun safety, they got a lot. It keeps the kids busy and off the street.
That's at that church right over here, right? Is that the only location?
In Kansas City, Kansas, yeah.
Were they, so I run my own mechanic business, you can tell by the dirty feet. Would they be interested in, somebody like me coming in and show kids how to do basic car work?
That's a real possibility. You get a hold of Matt Thomas, he's the one that runs it.
That would be good because they're doing driver's ed.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, just little thing like how to change brakes or, you know, some basics, how to change a tire.
Well, especially the basics. That's
just
what
the
I was
basic
thinking.
stuff.
I was thinking if they're learning how to drive, what a great combination of also how to take care of what to, do, how to take care of your car, especially the flats.
Flat tire, you shouldn't have to get a license if you can't change a flat tire.
Absolutely.
It's not that hard.
Well, it's complicated nowadays. So it's like changing the freaking light bulb in the car.
Oh, no. Yeah, you gotta take the engine out and go.
Yeah.
Just change the damn light bulb.
My daughter had an 08 Equinox. And you literally had to take the front end apart just to change the headlight.
Is that,
Yeah.
and it's just the bulb, not the whole
Just
unit.
all, you gotta get that unit up.
Really?
You gotta take the grill off. It was like,
Well, in my Silverado, you gotta take all the breathing apparatus off the engine just to get to the passenger side. Light bulb.
yeah. They designed them, I'll tell you what.
I rebuilt old like Willie's Jeeps, like from the late 40s. Yeah. And man, there's not a computer chip on that car. That's a coil and a battery. That's as fancy as it gets. Yeah.
Cars are all controlled by the tablet, center of the
Oh,
council.
yeah.
It's like everything, fan, everything.
So see, like even my phone, my finger's even slightly wet. I can't do squat, you know, I can't slide, can't do anything.
Just a computer on four wheels.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, we got a new car, and I got in it one morning with taking our grandkids to meet the parents halfway from Colorado. Started whipping that darn screen on
Right up it.
and I didn't notice it. And it took about 2 minutes. It was just updating, rebooting, but it's like, you know what I mean? Why? Yeah.
See, we got a garden.
Turn no seat.
I just barely got, we ran to my
Let
crew,
me see this. It's Tesla.
looked at a motor,
Yeah.
they messed up on it, and my,
Is that the agenda?
And if I thought about it, they should have made it closer.
Yeah.
That might have not worked for you.
oh, my guys wanted it.
Oh, you had the mayor out there running that mower.
That was his idea. He brought it.
Yeah. He had the idea and internally everyone was like, not a good idea. And then here you come, we barely give him the weed eater and the bucket and the street, and here you come with that machine.
Give him a call.
He called me and I'm like, I'm stepping on, he should have opened this. And he called, I'm like,
Gets out there.
so I pulled up and him, Steve is there.
Steve.
And I'm like, okay, what you wanna use? And he told me, and he got on the sheets. And it's obviously like no skill. I said, what do you want skill? He did tips. He got him in there. And he's gonna stay there. And I was trying to run and grab it, but it's a big, it'll knock me down. Stevie stood there and I finally he hit the curb and went, and he cut off.
He called me every day.
His face. My face. Oh, I thought he was gonna start himself.
That's what Stevie said. Stevie said, yo, we just called. I said, yeah, we were giving him a bucket, pick, and a weed eater. We gave him glasses.
Like when he was the cut, it was
They said it was like,
it was thick, but you had to know how to cut it. It was, the big machine I had, I could cut it, but you had to set the wheels. You never drove one of these.
Oh, I
Put that
rented
right
it
wheel
way up.
right on the curve.
She sent me
Right. It's
some
not
of her
stuff.
suggestions. She said she'll be at next meeting.
I said, when you get on it, it's easy. I did it with two fingers to make it.
Hey, I didn't.
Take the scenic route.
but did you do the cutting or did
I
you?
finally, when he went down through that, that's when I get zero turn. All this, get that in a turnaround. Well, he got down and rather back down. He's I can't do this. I turned it around, went back, but
Police officer for
I can't do this.
Cause we just needed pictures of
Did you get-
that he had, but
Well.
they look good. Before and after.
We get
Raiders cars.
No, he can say, you're not doing this again. It's a good photo and,
We ran there.
He didn't tell me. He did not tell. It was Stevie didn't tell me that it. They just said, bring the sheets. Pull the big zero out, give it to it, and walk away. What's that? He got on it. When he hit that thing, it was. I thought he was gonna go out on stage. Oh my God.
Where was that video?
well, that. It's hard enough me seeing it because I was like, where did he get this from? Seriously, when I tell you that he wanted this everything and anything, and we were like,
They repaired.
we're down to a weed eater,
Yeah.
a bucket, pick, and some glass. Those would be good pictures.
I didn't know.
It wasn't good enough, so he called them.
They got.
And that, so, but it did look good, I'm not gonna lie.
It was good. I can tell it was edited.
Oh, very edited. Because when I heard the story, I heard that same story about up on the curb and everybody was like, oh.
I'm driven one.
That
sorry, I don't know where.
That was the exact same reason why we didn't give him all of what he wanted, because it was like,
The reason I see y'all from. But if he had if he had told me he didn't, then I would say, okay, wait, I'll give you a quick class, which I did.
that's what
Sure.
we did with the weed eater.
Was true. But the weed. That's that weed eater, you had
Man.
when he gets, I'm like, okay, that's not a weed, put that thing.
Yeah.
Put that thing. It was almost a battery operated, you know? Battery operated. Oh, what it was, but all it did hit the weeds, they just laid down and popped right back up.
That's exactly why he got something different than what they had internally.
He wanted me to
Same.
bring his mind, I have a big economic sense. The head, I mow along the curb and it's worn when it falls off. I said, I can't bring that to the He'll never get that thing put back together.
Yeah, because in order to cut it was so thick.
Oh, yeah, that's.
And I told him, I said, I did behind McDonald's on State Avenue.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
state, yeah.
No, yeah, State Avenue.
That's what I thought.
That stuff was terrible. He's like these big things are stalks going 3 foot on the sidewalks and stuff. I owned a business, I could be cutting that stuff down.
We put the machine on, so we didn't just what. But in order to cut it with, I had to, I was trying to show him, he has to set that wheel right.
Kids get there, you gotta run.
And he just couldn't do it. He went off and run.
Mile.
So,
I
I went over, cut it, came back.
Moved that handle a half inch.
Yeah. But I did not know. I swear, I didn't know.
The mayor called it. Because none of us were, it's not like we weren't responding
Not
to it.
near as much.
But everyone was like, okay, we're gonna
all changed.
give you some pointers, we're gonna show you how,
You remember.
how,
Mark mentioned-
and what to think about. You're not gonna do the big review. No,
He used to
not
run.
gonna do the big.
And the city gives, that's why you gave me that look. And I said,
Said,
He left.
I said that you gave me a look. No. I know that. What did I mean? But you said, no.
I was like, no. We were trying to get him to stop thinking like that. It was, if you want a group of people with you and you're with meeting, you know, they're using the meetings and everybody else is using the equipment. No.
Who's Honora?
Everybody has that.
Where's she at?
So I knew he'd find a way to get you.
I see you, Victor.
Oh, you, okay. Where are you?
I
Where-
see
tell
you
me
here
where you at?
in
You
your neon yellow.
I couldn't get, I just came to work straight here. Are you
I
at
think-
home? You know?
Yeah, I'm at home. I'm at home.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got a couple of other conference calls after this, so.
Just make sure you help me find out who's the telephone number.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
So he knew all of this. He still.
Yeah.
Just gonna do it his way.
Hi, Dwayne, that's me.
Okay.
There's still.
Here, I
that's
don't
Jesse, is that your?
Yep, that's Jesse.
Telephone number too?
Sorry,
You're
I'm so used to being
always-
on for work that I'm used to my photo being up there when I'm not on video,
Oh,
so.
no, you're good. I was just, there's somebody on the phone at 913-456. Is that you too?
Oh, no, I
456-33.
Nothing.
No,
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
who that is. Yep.
No, I saw you were,
Okay.
your name was at least on.
Oh,
but-
good deal.
but it's on the phone, 913-456-3305. If you could just help identify yourself.
Lisa?
He's gonna contact you.
You didn't know that.
We'll break you up. You had it up before I came outside. They work anyway. I couldn't have made it, but I didn't get the message. Okay. He told me he was gonna reach out.
Yeah, he said he-
He was contacting everybody, all three of us. Hey, Paul. How everybody doing?
That's a good word, but.
We done here last, and I apologize. Did a little good laugh for y'all.
Apologize for joining.
I
want to see that video. Now, see, that's the video you won't not. The one that we have, of course, we don't have that one. I only heard the story. You're the second one to confirm that story, but I don't have the video.
So Stevie didn't film that part?
think so, because he didn't show any.
Yeah, that man Steve is on two that she seen him, but when he went up on that curve, I go, oh Lord.
He probably said that America's Funniest Home Videos to make $10,000.
He got some money.
I'm waiting.
He got some money.
We told him if you have it, he's like, oh.
Him said, stay down. And you don't run over there because it's so strong. If I had ran over, when he pivoted, he would be down. Because it's a big machine. So I knew, don't, just wait till he stopped. We hit that curve, jumped up and it stopped. Ran over there to it. They shut it off. Yeah, it would not. I wrote talk to you.
How I felt when I first got on my scooter with
There it
the
is.
size.
You didn't know
It was like,
who.
it's really heavy. You lost. Okay.
That's why you said.
They're gonna say no, because I even told him no. I said, you know, I don't know if you remember, when was it? It was years ago when Dan Moranovich decided to do a race on
Oh,
those
yeah.
buggies
And yeah.
at Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, the flip.
remember that?
It was there.
Flipped.
Sure did.
And I will never forget thinking, if I was staff, would I have told her to get on? No.
Yeah.
I would have said, I would have said, yeah, get on it, but you're not gonna race. I mean, and they raced around, remember the, so, and when she flipped, that's all is in my mind that I'm like, can I see the mayor, you know,
But I thought he got, most men operate those kind of machines. Oh. Him or Stevie Wonder.
Never make that assumption.
That's- that's why I definitely said, let's use.
They would like that for the web.
Could it be?
Oh, list of the
I told him,
You know.
I said, let's stick with the weed eater, the bucket and right, the pickup truck. And he just looked at me. Rodney was like, we'll play it safe, Mayor. You know, just, we'll give it. So Rodney was the one that gave those tools like that. That had. What he wanted was something different because he has internal staff.
You
know what you want to do, let's get it done. We can do some good. And then what I didn't realize where he picked, because even Steve said,
Well, I talked with him first.
apparently before they called
He
you.
said, well, check with him. Put on the agenda. Yeah.
But they couldn't do it because it was.
Little bitty trees.
Yeah.
You said he had, when I got there, I didn't see nothing but a weed. I saw the glass. That's all I saw.
Well, they keep.
Have some more.
And then I gave
Get better with it.
the girl I gave my backpack with it on. They cleaned it up because that's no.
Now, see, let me tell you, what I think that was probably a good thing.
Oh, I thought you were going to move on the grass. I said, no, I don't never leave in the street. So he put the backpack on and it was easy. Yeah. So. I'm talking about the company.
This has been a conversation with him.
Between the windows, then they started.
I want to say this in the beginning,
The whole shitload of brown.
and he has been wanting to do this. But
I guess they brought.
Yeah, but
they had one shell. That's
with
20.
that kind of equation,
They all went out.
and we've just been.
So is it all? Just.
I know, that's why when you.
Cause he knew I had some business, so he talked to me.
Clam deals with that. So.
You know,
You can give me that.
so I knew he was gonna do it, but I didn't know we. It was.
Well, for me, it was a photo. For him too, it was important. He wants to show. He just wants people to know that he's willing to get out there, right? But we didn't-
It's the same company.
You know, picking up trash, the blower, because
Just to go.
that seems to be the equipment that he.
And even a blower can get on.
Even there, you're right, here.
I can't, basically, he had
But when they
the
have.
biggest one, I'm like, okay.
They should have.
Because I'm saying one was, I had two of them on the trailer.
Arrested everybody.
And the Bobcat was the first one, it's only my biggest is 72 inch. Okay, that's about even, that's for, I just pulled it out and shot it. We don't, that's too big, yet we use the, we just too big, so it was there, I just pulled it out, showed it around, let it off, say, hey, here you go, and I walked, stood by Steve, and he jumped on it.
So see, now you have two
Okay,
visions.
okay.
Mayor Marinovich
Yes.
what you call it, and he jumping the curve.
I see both of them.
So when he comes next time, just go, help arrange that with Irene. Arrange with Irene.
Yeah.
Block.
Okay, I remember
Years ago.
she jumped on like, well,
Okay.
it's okay.
A big,
Oh,
do you remember that?
She jumped up like she was okay.
She did, she tried to jump up, but then all of a sudden.
Yeah, getting light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just,
We went.
those
So you
things.
had one going.
I was working west.
True.
I mean, it's flipped.
They called.
Yeah.
My doctor just told me about what she saw in Jamaica.
Yeah, they said she's down.
The lady flipped, and the lady ended up on her butt.
Once all cars down the
Dead.
street down in town.
What else? She was okay.
She, Myra, she stands up.
They-
on top.
They fly down the street on those days like
Look at this shit.
you can get hurt on those things. It's just, I got
Okay,
two.
my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Hate my city back.
You should think of some kind of fast vehicle.
We went down there.
Keys on. Can we got two? That's forbidden. We got
Move the car.
snow blades on the front of them that we use for pushing snow. So that's all, that's business. We can, we'll take the blades off. though.
Plus,
One
the
day,
headlights
like,
out.
fly 'em down the
Night
street.
stick,
They stay right there in this
tail
tail.
lights out.
Then my son would go get it, bring it out.
Plus the
And I come
windows
home,
out.
he is riding
People
down the
started
street.
moving.
Okay, that's why they, the grandbabies think they can ride.
Mhm.
Yeah, the place, which kids, so they do it home, right? It's strictly business.
Luckily,
He's gonna load them up, go to Oklahoma, they got a course down there you can ride.
Yeah,
So, like,
you know, that's in here.
Yeah, you want to race track this week?
See it. And the clerk.
I think they told us about them when Topeka
They
was
didn't
there,
have
but
no more.
most of them, I don't think, they had to be a membership or something, so it was something. I know it's charging you a fee, but I think they said Topeka, but then they said the one. I mean,
Service out.
ride from miles. But I don't play with them too.
Well, Irene, you think we should get moving?
Hmm.
I was kind of waiting to see if Conway was gonna show up, or Bert can come up.
Oh, that's right. A lot of them are out, but I don't know.
Yeah, we could go on, we could go on.
What did you do?
Oh, it had to be a wasp.
We just,
Down in Mount Carmel.
I got you,
No, but
We won't have any-
oh, yeah.
resolution till he gets here.
I woke up this morning.
I suppose, so we can just discuss things.
Laverne, to me?
Yeah, Laverne or Jeff, either
It
one.
me.
Okay.
So by the time I got home, it was all, the pain was all gone, but that's the joke.
Are we ready?
Yes.
I went out to urgent care.
Wayne, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
That was more like that.
Who said that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, who spoke?
As soon as I get it, I'm related to so much that I can't even.
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order. Can y'all hear me now? Online?
Yep.
Do we have everybody that's online there, Irene?
Yeah, except for I still don't know who this phone number, who owns the phone number right here. Who owns the 456-3305? If you can identify yourself. I don't know who that is.
Anonymous. All right, we don't have any, we'll call the meeting to order. We don't have any updates from committees because we don't have any committees. Now, if you weren't here last month, we had the presentation from the manager of 311 Crystal Sprague. And we did that to kind of coincide with our objective for the addressing code problems and code enforcement, things like that, because they're definitely connected. I sent her email asking her for suggestions that she had that we could recommend, because if you remember when she was here, we talked about some kind of tracking number to track calls to 311. That way we can run the process. Once we have a number, and so when you call 311, the complaint will follow through. And then we have a number, so it can eventually, hopefully, go full circle and get back to a resolution, or at least so we know what happens when somebody calls 311 or a complaint in on anything. I just talked to her before the meeting, and she really receptive about that. She sent me some things, and I'll run by you guys some of her suggestions. One of the things is to upgrade the call center platform that supports digital notification to citizens. So what she's talking about, I think, is when you call with a complaint to 311 or information, it automatically emails or texts you the number for your complaint, for your call. So you automatically get a response to what happened with that call right then, if it was forwarded or whatever. So you get your notification that basically the affirmation that you would call. She said that could be done by texts or emails. If you don't have text or email, I'm not sure how they would do that if you're calling from a landline at your house, but that's something to work out. If you're calling from your house, that maybe another thing is just, they just give you a number and you just have to write it down. Another thing she talked about was scripting for the top type of calls. So I would be like, if you call in, there's a script for the person to respond, so they're just not making stuff up off the top of their head. So if you call up and say, my trash didn't get picked up, they can generate you the number and then a script, so everybody's getting the same answer, basically. So that was another one of her suggestions. The other one is better case linking. Problem that she explained is every department, or not every department, but a lot of departments have different operating systems that are not networked together. I don't know what the names of them are. She knows all the names of them, but so that's her problem with linking a 311 call to, say, code enforcement or waste management. They may be on a totally different operating system. Now, I don't know what it would cost, and she doesn't know what it would cost to redo an entire system that everybody worked on the same system. And she said that probably there would be resistance to that because people that are used to their operating system are not going to want to change to a different system. But I'm not a computer type person, but I would think that there would be a way to network them where at least they could talk to each other or communicate, even if they're not using the same system. They got to be, because they got to be working somehow together with some of these things. So that would be a problem with maybe not totally redoing a system, but basically just the tech people being able to link them so they could communicate each operating system. Another thing she suggested was visibility for callers to track or get notifications when progress is made. This is a thing that we talked about, making these complaints go full circle. So wherever they shift the complaint off to, and she said the last meeting, like 80% of their calls were sent forward somewhere else for someone else to handle. And 20% are what the 311 people handle. So She said when they transfer a call, if you call into code enforcement, code complaint, they transfer to code enforcement, they have no clue what happened, whether the person answered the phone, or went to an answering machine, or if the case was resolved. So this will give a resolution back to, so with that number, you'd be able to pull up and look and see, well, this call was transferred on this date and there was no answer and no resolution. And the whole thing is that to get resolutions done and that identifies where the weak link is in the process is too. If they can track the call and say, well, we gave it to code enforcement on this date at this time, and we got nothing back from them, then that's a situation that is addressed there, so we know who dropped the ball. And it helps with the progress is made also. And it helps, so if you call and there's already a complaint generated on a call that you're making, they want to be able to look at that computer and say, well, we already have this call. This is the number on the call. They've already been notified that the house is unfit, or they've been sent a letter from code enforcement. So that keeps from piling up calls about the same thing. They already know that this is either being looked at or nothing's been done or it hasn't been reported. And that way it helps to cut down some of the duplication of things and streamline the process. And also it helps with the things being worked on. Like we found out with code enforcement when they talked to us, and we have cases, and in fact, I just talked to some people about the complaint Wyandotte County against crime and stuff. There's a house that's gets code complaints all the time, and like we found out from Greg, we do have a process now where they keep putting liens on these houses for the back fines. You know, these people have been cited forever, and out of city landlords. It's tough to enforce these things, but what they're doing is we may not see that these things are being addressed, but everybody in the system knows they are. They know, well, they've been cited, they got, fines against their house. And remember, that's how he said we got Sour Castle finally resolved, was they just building up enough fines against the property that they turned the property over or sold the property to someone else. So this system will help with that. So you say, well, we know it's a problem, but it's being worked on. And I know I hate slow systems. I hate slow resolutions to problems. You have a problem and you want to get it fixed as quick as possible, but it's not always. We have to go through the process. And she talked about upgrading the mobile reporting app. I don't know what that is, other than maybe it has to do with being able to text the complaint or something in, allowing for real-time reporting and ticket routing. So I guess that's part of the upgrading the mobile phone app, where they can in real time tell where the report is going, and what I told her also was this. I think what we want done is through this process is to be able to eventually put a time constraint on resolving complaints. So when a situation goes in and it's forwarded, once that department gets it, they have a response time before they have to come back with some kind of resolution or come back with some kind of responses to what they did. So it's not being sit on for months at a time and before it's answered. So that's on our wish list to happen, to get these resolutions handled quicker, is to establish a response time back, say, you know, you got this, you know, I want a response back in 2 weeks as to what you did or what's going on with this. Identify the direction with the right fit resources for things selected is 311 a one-stop shop or resolution. These are questions. Remember, the last thing she left us was, what do we want 311 to be? One she said is 311 a one-stop shop for resolution. Do all things go through 311 and that's where everything is tracked and come back? Remember, and she said that's the most expensive. That's the most expensive way to handle it, because that entails them to, everything goes through them, out to the departments, from the departments back through them, and I don't know that that's, it may be a good solution. It's not, if it's real expensive, it's not gonna be best.
Oh, you asked for input?
Yeah.
I don't think 111 is a good solution for them to contact every department. It falls short of getting to who it needs to get to. Supervisors do not want to hear from us, but they got all these women working at the front desk out there on 54th Street. Why can't they catch the phone and direct the questions to them? Instead, we have to tell 311 what our problem is. And it's like yesterday, I called in at 11th and Parallel. I called in 311, said, there's a whole lot of debris out in the middle of the street. So you need to call code enforcement. I said, why would I call code enforcement and tell you about trash that's in the middle of the street that need to be removed? She says, well, I don't know who to call. Well,
That
call
was
one of the
311?
supervisors. Yeah, this is 311 I'm talking to. She says, well, I don't know who to call to tell. I said, that's our problem right now. Nobody's know who to call. So going 311 to tell somebody it's something, no. They need to go to the actual department, and that's what they got away from. They didn't want us to call the departments because the supervisors don't want to talk to us. So to avoid that, they put it back on 311. Another thing about 311, first thing you call in, we don't need to hear about employees where to call in at. That shouldn't be on 311. They should have their own line. If they want to know if they got to come to work today, they're sick, they don't need to call a 311 line. Then we don't need, the first thing we need to hear is about the court. Nobody needs to hear about the court. I mean, I'm not trying to go to court. Let them call the court. Don't call the 311 line. That should be open for the public to call, so we can get to where we need to get to, not for inside stuff.
I wonder if the reasoning for that wasn't that the court systems couldn't handle the volume of calls, so they just funneled that into a reporting, I'm assuming, on a 311 line. So if you're calling to find out, I'm just asking.
I understand.
throwing it out there.
But I don't think that should be a good idea to hear about the court system and hear about
I don't know why
employees.
I don't know why they do that. You know, Irene, is that a policy that they call in 311, find out if they're supposed to come to work or falling sick?
Never heard it. I mean, I've not been instructed nor ever heard that.
No, I didn't.
But I mean, yeah, that's something we can ask them.
Yeah, we can add, I haven't seen any policy that employees call 311 to call in sick. And as far as court is and stuff, what happens is a lot of times that I would guess that if they do call court to find out if they're supposed to go to court or whatever and don't get an answer, the next thing is they call 311, they get an answer. Or they may not get an answer to their question, but they get an answer to the phone. That's,
Yeah.
you know, when you call and it just goes to an answering machine and they'll get an answer, the next thing is they call 311 and get a live person to, and that's one of the things that's irritated me is in dealing with things that when the UG is, when you do call departments, a lot of times you don't get a person. And a lot of times you don't get a call back. And the thing is, the benefit through 311 it is, and that goes back to, like I said, the wish list that had was a one-stop shop at 311. And even when she gave her presentation, said that wasn't probably feasible, and it would be expensive. The other one is the 311 with a tiered support model, which would be something like that, where they do kind of a mix between both of them, where when you call one department, you don't get an answer, you call 311, and if we're gonna do the tracking system with a complaint number to be generated, I think a lot of these things would have to go through 311. We're not gonna generate a complaint number for somebody calling in sick or find out if the UG's open, it's time to go to work or whatever. That really, yeah, that's a policy issue, I think, with the departments. Because what Crystal had talked about, when you call 311, it should be for information or to report something or to be transferred somewhere else, and that's where they generate that number to be tracked back. Maybe, you know, if I was to call in sick and I called my department, and I didn't get somebody live to answer, I probably would call 311 just to make sure that they knew I called in sick, document something. So, and if that's what they're doing, and Crystal could probably break that down and tell us how many calls like that that they should be getting, that could be policies.
I got this number from codes, 573-3317 to file a complaint. Is that what, if I call 311 to file a complaint, is this the number they're gonna send me, direct me to? Because one of the codes guys gave me this about a complaint on some property that's in bad, they're breaking the law. He said, do this and so they can file a complaint. The code just sit back and look at it, I'm pointing at it, but he wouldn't do anything, told me I had to call this number. He couldn't write up nothing, he couldn't do anything. He said, I gotta call this number.
Yeah, it was that number.
So on the website, on 311 for the website, it says the unified government, this is talking about 311. Unified government is contracted with Dover, a Kansas City-based company, to receive calls after normal business hours. Residents and businesses can expect their after-hours calls to be answered quickly by professional staff. Now, the reason I read that is because you would think that would be a continuation of what the 311 operator's responsibility would be. It says call takers have been trained to provide information about city services, take messages for treasury and court staff, and dispatch personnel for public works emergencies. To initiate an online request, you could use the form below. So that might answer your question about the courts and why they're calling about courts.
What was that? What number, Victor?
573-3317.
Call them to see what it do.
Can I, and
I'm sorry. It's 573-5311.
311, yeah.
5311.
That's it.
so did you all know that Turner doesn't have access to 311?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Turner doesn't?
People in Turner can't use 311, so there's a gap in the system. I don't know if other areas do or not.
I wonder why they can't.
I don't know. I talked to two people who live out there and I was talking about talking about 311. They said you don't have it. You don't have access to it.
I don't know how that works.
Not in access.
Yeah.
You mean access to just to be able to quickly do, because sometimes people don't understand they could do 211 or 311. But they can do 573-5311. You're saying the 311.
They just said that the 311 is not operable in their area. I wasn't aware of that, so it might be
I'm
something.
not saying, when I call 311, guess stuff, that's the only state line I get Missouri.
I never,
Yeah,
well, that can
that's-
have.
Yeah.
that can
I
happen
heard
with-
that too, yes.
I heard that.
That can happen with 911.
Yeah, that happens.
That does happen.
That can happen with 911 too. There's places here where you'll hit a tower that's not in Wyandotte County.
See about that? What said about?
That happens with 311 where I live, Dwayne. I know Nettie has that problem and she gets Parkville sometimes when she calls.
Yeah, yeah, there's places here, if you get close to the edges of their phone service, you get a different county, a different 911 operator.
What said about that weekend, when you called during the weekend after UG had to close down?
That's when you get West Coast.
Yeah,
Get that done.
what'd she say about that? That's something they gonna work on and.
No, can I say something? Well, the conversation we had, she says in her budget that she's gonna take it out, so we probably gonna get rid of it, because that answering service, it's not doing us no good, we paying $25,000 for nothing. Or 22,000, whatever it is. Waste of time, waste of our money.
Yeah, I don't see where, if you have an emergency after hours, you probably need to call 911 instead of 311. And if it's something that's not an emergency, then it can wait till business hours, rather than pay a answering service to handle that.
So what's gonna happen if you call, they're not gonna get, the message is not gonna get to city workers until Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it means Friday, they try to come, but you try to get a whole week done.
And if it's an emergency, like gas leak, water main broke, whatever, when you call 911, the police dispatchers know who to call for emergency response for that, because we did that, but, we had car wrecks where they knocked over fire hydrants or gas meters or whatever, and we have access to get emergency people out there to respond to those things. They're not gonna write up a ticket and wait and notify someone that, it's gonna respond to it later. So, yeah, I think that's probably a good money saving thing, is like the after hours 311.
And we know, the community knows it's 311, and some of them rely on 311. They need to know how you gonna get that word to them, let them know that this 311, that on weekend, this is what it does. And they're thinking they're gonna get some results, probably when you call them, almost like 911. Then we find out if you call 311 in Saturday, that department in the city is not gonna find out until Wednesday or Thursday. People don't know that.
Well, that's the way it's always been. After hours has never been answered here. It's a contract answering service.
So the entire community knows that, just call 911. Now you're gonna overload 911.
Well, they're not doing away with it right now, but that's what I'm just saying, if they do, if that's a direction they take, then I'm sure they will have something when you call 311, if it's after hours, just like they do every place else here. If you call after hours, they say, our hours are 9 to 5. If you have an emergency, dial 911. Otherwise, call back between the hours if you have a complaint. So,
Well, I would think that $22,000 a month, wasn't that what she said? They pay that dollar or something like that?
Yeah.
I would think that would be enough to hire 1 or 2 more employees.
Thank you.
And to create
Yeah.
a rotating shift as well.
Yeah.
Instead of a regular work week, Monday to Friday, you have some people who work Tuesday through Saturday or something like that.
But Kansas City, Kansas, we don't run on
And we're
Wednesday.
not paying over.
We're Monday through Friday in town.
And we're not.
Weekend, we shut down.
well, yeah, that's what needs to be, one of the things that needs to be changed. We're a 24-hour, 365-day a year city, and we should have some kind of response for that, for these things.
Been going.
Yeah, Pam.
Was there anything on this list that she thought could be implemented with the existing system that they have now? For example, she talks about linking operating systems. Is that
Yeah, she doesn't know,
No, we can't. doing
but that's one of the things she's actually looking into. She's working on that. Uh, the third thing, just to get past that, is the 311 transfer service for other departments. That was the third option she talked about, was where 311 doesn't do anything other than you call and they transfer you to another department, whatever. They don't do nothing else other than just an answering service. So that's probably the cheapest, easiest, and no.
And that's kind of where we are right now.
But it's not gonna do.
Well, we're kind of a little bit better than that because they do handle some things there. And they do transfer some things. And so we're kind of in between the second and the third option there. But it's kind of geared to what we want to recommend to what they can do right now. Yeah, from what my conversation with her today was, right now they can easily generate the complaint.
And they can do the scripting.
Well, they said,
They could do the complaint number. When you call, they can generate a number. They can put that in a computer. They can text you the number, email you the number, or give you the number. Referral number, complaint number, whatever you want to call it. I guess it could be a referral number too, because if you call and want information about something and they refer that number and tell you, you have to call this department for further information, you call them and they don't answer, you don't get the response back, you can call back and say, hey, well, you gave me this referral number, I called to people, or I got transferred, nothing happened, then they can track that, they can follow up on that.
So that could become part of
If
their
they-
duties to,
They
as
can
they
do,
pass that information on to the different departments because they've attached the claim number on it. It would be consistent across the departments, following that number.
Yeah,
That would be
we-
generated out of 311. And then they can connect with the department, say, once a week or or however, the interval, that they would get feedback on that particular claim.
well, the first full circle is gonna take a little bit more than that.
Mhm.
But the initial thing that we can do now, that she can do relatively easy with just a resolution or recommendation resolution would be to have 311 generate plate numbers or reference numbers for each call, and the person that calls gets that number, whether it's text, emailed, or over the phone, and say, this is your number, this is your reference number for the call you just made. So when you call back, refer back to this number so we can track what was done. And when they issue that number, if the operator that takes the call thinks it's a code enforcement number and they say, okay, well, here's your reference number and I'm going to transfer you to code enforcement. And when you call back, if nothing happens, you can say, well, this is the reference number. And I called them and they said they don't handle that. So that person knows, well, there's a problem here. If they called that number and they said they didn't handle this complaint, they have to find someone else that does handle it or find out why they didn't handle it. But it links it all together to track track what's being done, and get a response back. So you're not calling one day and saying, I got this problem. They say, okay, we're gonna say code enforcement. Nothing gets done. You call back 2 days later and say nothing was done. And they say, oh, well, let's just transfer you to water pollution. And they said, well, ain't our problem. And so it's our job is our responsibility is try to make it work more efficiently. And so this is to make it more efficient. So when a citizen does call in, they get a reference number, they get a tracking number, and then our goal with the departments is to get them to do something to respond, track the complaint, and eventually respond back with a resolution in a timely manner. And that should be something that you should just be able to check. Should say, you know, I called, his house was, there was trash in the yard or whatever. And in 2 weeks, if you call back, there should be a resolution to that, or
See, I think
some kind
that's,
of response.
I think that's the issue right there, is when you call back. We don't want to call back. We don't want residents having to call back.
Well, yeah,
And I think when they spoke here, I don't know if it was.
but
Crystal.
if it's not been taken care of,
Right, I don't know if it was Crystal or the manager that she brought with her, stated that when they have you on the phone, they generate that ticket and they can give you that ticket number. And because at that time, they're forwarding that via computer or whatever to another department, to the proper department. I would think to make the system more efficient for the resident, that the resident should expect some type of follow-up from the UG, from that department within, say, 72 hours.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm, you know, that's what I,
Sounds good.
as a citizen, that's what I expect. And then you get that follow-up and at least you know, okay, this department has it. Or you know the status of your complaint. You don't have to call back and call back and call back. Because that's what's frustrating. That's why we're here. That's why we're here, frustration. So to have a system like that, and like they said, they forward that call right away. And they should tell you which department it was forwarded to. But that's not gonna do you a lot of good if now you just gotta call this number and complain some more. So you should have not a resolution, an expected resolution time, but you should have some type of a time frame where they're going to respond back to you and tell you what's the status of your complaint. That, I mean,
Let me ask you,
common sense.
we've had, code enforcement up here. Is it too much to ask for the heads of department, for the street department, the heads of department of the park and recreations? They're the ones who know the complaints are coming in, but who do they send out to do the job? And when they go out and do the job, do they do it right? That's what gets me. They don't do it right. I mean, I'd rather them not come out. It's like going across the Little and Clark Bottom. We can't go across it right now. With a team of people should be down there cleaning that the whole area right now, since it's all shut down. Trees are growing up over the bridge. They're trying to say, if you go up on the bottom, you sure can't look up. So I'm saying, there should be no trees growing over the bridge and hanging up. I mean, there's a stop sign, I keep talking, you come off of Lewis and Clark Viaduct, you see the caution sign, but you don't see the stop sign, the trees are there. We do not have a tree cutting department. I keep telling them that. If you ain't got nobody to cut these limbs, how do you think you're gonna remove them?
That came up earlier today, actually, WD,
Huh?
and somebody mentioned that that area might be under contract of KDOT. Anybody follow?
where is that?
When you come off the viaduct.
Yeah.
It's a jungle now,
That's it.
okay?
That's the city,
So-
I've seen them cut it, so I
Right.
don't know.
I thought it was a city too. And we're talking about beautifying our area, getting prepared for FIFA and whatever. It should have just been a standard procedure. There's no way we should have had the height of the trees that we have down there.
Height of-
Or the amount of vegetation is down there. That's the entryway into our city. And it looks like hell.
And they say all they can send down is one person. He goes down to what, a sidewalk cutter, and that's it. Pick up no trash and just cut. And however it looks like that, and that's it. Tell me they done a good job. To me, that's not a good job. I'm gonna send the man right back out the next day and say, you pick up the trash you cut. But they don't understand that. Because supervisors do not have their men do what they should do.
And if you had a business though, wouldn't you expect, like, if you had a business that had a 311 in it, a call center to receive everything, wouldn't you expect some type of a conversation about that and say like a weekly or a monthly meeting of senior management? Wouldn't you want reports generated as to, what type of complaints your customers made to your organization about this department, that department, that pertain to these departments. And what the resolution, is, how many calls were resolved, how many are waiting, how many were resolved in 24, 72, 48 hours, whatever. But you would want me personally, if that was my company, that's what I would want. And you know what? The unified government is our company.
Right.
So why would we expect less from them than we would from Verizon or anything else that we're paying? And I think that,
And then you can start to track trends. And you can see where you've managed to maybe tamp down from 100% calls down to 1 or 2 every now and then. Then you can see if we've actually resolved those issues.
yes,
And that process right there I think would eliminate so many complaints. The feedback loop is important. To have a claim number so that you can follow your piece of resolution. 311 will know where it went and who got it when.
mhm,
That's part of the accountability and what WD is talking about. We could have every department head come in here and we could gripe and complain about them all day long.
Nobody wants to waste their time.
And exactly, it's a waste of time. You can gripe at them all you want. And it's a waste of our time and theirs, and it's not gonna resolve anything. Our responsibility is to resolve the problems and make things efficient. And we do this by making people accountable. We can't hold anybody accountable. You can't fire nobody. I can't fire. There's not a person in here that can fire anybody in here. You could send somebody from Public Works out of the street department, what I'd cut a tree down, and then go fly a kite and not do anything. And there's nothing we can do about it. The accountability is what we're trying to do with this process, starting with 311 and this circle process where we find out where the weak link is. So when you call 311, you can go down there and call them about the trees by the interstate and say, it looks terrible. There's trees growing up there. We start the process of accountability then. That's the generating of the reference number. And so you can call back a month later and say, oh, well, it still looks terrible. They haven't done anything. This is the reference number from when I called. And accountability is to find out where the weak link is and cut the weak link out.
and when you.
I don't care what any department heads do. I don't care how they manage anything. What we want to do is to make sure when you call, you get the response that you deserve back. And I don't care what happens in the middle. So if you call and say, this is my complaint number, my reference number I got from 311 2 months ago, and this still isn't done, you've initiated a process of dominoes that falls down, and where the last one goes and nothing happens, then that's when the people are held accountable. Does it make sense?
It does, but I think that's where you bring senior management in.
Thank you.
And we can, and you have them, we don't get involved with them. We don't tell them how to hold their meetings or anything like that. But part of their meeting is reviewing the 311 process and how it worked with their department, where they stand on the complaints and things like that. They're with their peers, and now you want accountability. I'm sitting here and I'm getting 100 calls, complaints a month from 311. I'm in Public Works and I don't resolve none. I got 500 on the table, but everybody else in this room is working to resolve them. You're getting accountability now. You're putting people on the spot. Peers are holding peers accountable, whether they want to be or not. You're exposing. And that's where I say you bring that into a report generated that goes to the senior managers, and they discuss it as part of a weekly or monthly meeting. I don't know what they have. I know a lot of the organizations I was employed at, that's what they did for sales, for service, and for other things like that. What are we looking at? How do we resolve it? How, you know what I mean? Things like that. And we're no different. But that's how you generate, that's how you force accountability onto your managers. This is a government organization. This is the government. And you're not going to fire anybody because there's so much litigation involved in it.
Well, and that's,
holding them accountable.
we want Yeah, I tell you, these trees irritate me as much as they do you. The trash in the city irritates me as much as it as anybody else does here, maybe more, because I walk 2 miles of right of way and pick trash up every other day. And the thing is, how do we hold things accountable is to make sure when these complaints and stuff come in, the best way to handle it is a proactive approach to get these things addressed before people call and complain. What our problem is, people are calling, complaining, there's no resolution. There's limited we can do. There's actually a factual limit of our ability here is to just make recommendations and have those carried on. And if they don't want to do it,
You know what you're gonna hear?
what are you gonna do?
Number one, you're gonna hear, we don't have enough employees. Not my
Well,
fault.
I've heard that before.
But that's the excuse we're gonna get, no, not enough employees, and they won't hire nobody.
I-
And if they do hire somebody, they can't pass the drug test, you know, marijuana and alcohol, one of those two gonna stop them. So, I mean, we
Yeah,
have employees.
I don't care about their excuses.
But that's what I'm trying to say.
They're gonna generate the excuses. That's,
That's not an excuse you should accept, and I'm gonna tell you why.
yeah.
We just went through the budget process, right? Listen to Mr. Newman, we just, Mr. Johnston, talk about how many employees they, they model for, whatever. They were pretty much at the top, okay? So if you need more employees, that should be part of your budget process, but that's not what they said that they needed. They had the employees they budgeted for, that was there, okay? So to hear the excuse later, now where the employees are may be somewhat of an issue, but they're claiming that they are fully employed, all right? So that excuse doesn't wash right off the top. That budget, that information that they give there, that comes directly from the people who are running the place. County administrators, responsible for the operations, department heads responsible for what happens in their departments. So if you're gonna talk about accountability, yes, that's what we're supposed to be trying to help them to get. I don't want to hear back, well, we don't have enough employees. Reroute some of your employees. We heard that from code enforcement. You got a code enforcement person out in Western Wyandotte, but you need code enforcement in the Northeast or in the Armadale. Reroute your people. Logistics is part of this process. That's what you're supposed to be doing as part of your, and being a manager and running your department. So asking them to perform their duties should be part of what we're at. We shouldn't feel impotent about it.
Right.
We should be able to help them construct those metrics so that we can show that county administrator is doing his job, the department heads are doing their jobs, and the people who they're sending out to do the work are doing their jobs. So that should flow down. And we shouldn't feel, I shouldn't feel frustrated about it. So I don't really want to hear excuses about what you ain't got. Work with what you do have.
Right.
And let's start addressing, productivity is the issue here. And
And it's not a reason for. And it was last week.
no, it's not a lack
I think
of
it was last week it
accountability.
was that-
Exactly.
That I was told that code enforcement's fully staffed now.
Mhm.
So, the
Do your
thing,
job.
yeah, the thing is accountability, and that's, you know.
So if we could establish something like what's going on with 311, so you now have a tracking system. That's gonna help provide metrics of what's being done. And who's responsible, and like you say, find the weak links and being able to shore up those areas. We found the weak link with code enforcement, not enough employees.
Yeah.
Now you do. So we expect to see that code enforcement process moving forward, at least to identify those violations and get them in the pipeline to be resolved. At
Well,
some
for
point in time.
every job that's not done, whether it's here and private business, every job that's not done, there's a half dozen excuses why it didn't get done. So the thing is, you have to whittle away as many of those excuses you can. You have a full staff, so you can't say I don't have enough people. You can't say, well, I don't have time to do this. You can't say, one of the biggest things is, and the problem with 311 and these call directions is people say, well, I didn't get that. You know,
Well,
they
you're
can't be
eliminating that
accountable for
excuse.
what they don't know or what they claim they don't know. So the easiest thing is, oh, well, you know, we never heard about this, you know. So this is a way, a step tracking. It's not gonna solve everything. It's not gonna make everything work perfect. It's a step, it's a process. We have lots of things to do. This is the first step in accountability and tracking these complaints to get done. That's all it is. We can call every department head in here and complain at them all day long. Ain't gonna make a difference. Gonna go in one ear and out the other until they're held accountable. This is a way to start the process of accountability. That's all it is.
The reason that we wanted to talk to the department heads is to find out exactly what it is their department does.
What,
Okay?
yeah, what they do.
What are they responsible? Okay?
Yeah.
So we can be able to pinpoint more accurately. Who we need to, what we need to help patch up, fix up, elevate. I can look at this list that Crystal gave, Ms. Gray gave, and I can look at things that are actionable right now. And then part of that is her wish list for, maybe she wanted to upgrade to the tiered support model, okay? We know we're not gonna get the one-stop shop right now because of the expense. But we still need from her at some point in time, if you start to address the things that you can do, okay? Then when we can look then at the cost analysis for what you need to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
She didn't even want to provide that because she said there's no, you know, kind of like, kid, you can't buy it now.
She doesn't know because she doesn't know what it's gonna take to link all these things together. So the cost analysis, she's working on this stuff now. From the last meeting, she's been working on this stuff all month about this, and that's where she sent me the list of things. And her wish list, and this is her wish list, if she could have everything done, but the thing is, to move, we have to move. We have to start a resolution or some kind of recommendation on this as far as the generating the reference numbers, the accounting. And it will help her move the process forward and take the flow. And that, then, if we see the waste management or whether water pollution control or whatever, we can see where things are not being done. If she can say, well, these are how many numbers, and I tell you, this girl is documented numbers. She has numbers. She can tell you how many minutes that they've spent on the phone on 311. And if she can say, well, we referred this many calls, this many reference numbers to water pollution control, and we have generated no response backs, then we can call and ask their departments, say, can you give us a presentation of what you do? Why we have these? Because if you confront them and say, well, this 311 says you're a weak link. They've sent you 10 complaints and have got no responses back. What do you need to do to make your department more efficient that we can recommend? We're not gonna argue with people. We're not gonna tell these department heads what to do because they'll just turn you right off because we can't do anything to them. And they didn't have to come and give presentations to us. They're doing that out of the goodness of their heart and to help participate to make things better. They're actually trying to do things, and Crystal is trying to do things. And these other departments, if we find that there's not response through implementing some of these things, we can ask them to come in and say, hey, you know, what can we recommend to make you more efficient? Because we have data now that says you're not. Because you're not as responsive as some of these other departments to handling these problems, and you're not getting back in a timely manner. That is the only way we hold people accountable for that is by showing them, you know, this isn't working. What can we recommend? What do you need us to recommend to do to make you more efficient?
So I have a question. Is there an internal process that accomplishes this? I mean, is there any
Not that I know, like a
quality
internal
control
audit.
or any, I mean, because if you're saying, you know, we have no, we're just a ad hoc group, okay? True enough, all right? And listening to what Ms. Wright had to say about her department was very enlightening for all of us. Find out what's missing, what do you need, what would you like to have, what's your wish list? And how you can connect that with the customer who has wish list too. I'd like to get my problem resolved. Okay, I can tell from her expressing to you that there are some actionable, some action pieces that she can take right now. But I also hear you saying that she needs to be communicating with tech. IT.
Mhm.
In order to move a process, but that's an internal governmental process. That's not something that's not something we would even touch. That's something that she would have to do. Okay, and that's an internal working of the organization of the government. So
But if we make that recommendation,
that she makes sure that she has that link.
that
She makes that,
gives her yeah, she doesn't need our permission, but that gives her the,
Credibility.
huh?
Credibility.
Yeah, the credibility or ammunition or whatever to say, hey, this is what was recommended to make my department more efficient. And this is what I would like to do. And it's not just her saying, this is what I want to do. We can recommend it. That gives her more leverage to say, look, these people looked at this, they listened to my presentation, and they said it's not working, and this is what they think will make it work better and be more responsive. That's all we can do.
so at this point in time, basically, we're asking our recommendation. And one of the recommendations is that utilize whatever opportunities you have to make the system as marginally better as you can. If you're gonna get rid of cancel the contract for the after hours, because it's not functional, that's an action item. If it's about creating a system to track across the departments, that's an action item for her.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing that we can recommend that you have a discussion with tech and find out if there's a way to link your departments for better communication and make sure that communication extends to the customer as well. For the
Well,
resolution.
and-
So those are the kind of recommendations that you're looking for.
Yeah, and those are things she will do that I think she's already working on, because she's working on this tracking system. And so I think, recommending that to start off with, that when somebody calls in, you generate a reference number, you text it to them, email it to them, or give it to them over the phone to start the tracking process of what you're gonna do with the complaint. And I think she can carry that somewhat on her own farther down the road. But Jeff, is that something that comes from a resolution or a recommendation from the mayor or what, you know? The mayor said you could write something up on that, but
Well, I think, you're still discussing, you're still formulating. Once you get to that point and you want to really put it down on paper, then I think it's a series of recommendations that go to the mayor that is reviewed, and then if it fits with what he had in mind or something like that, then
Yeah.
it might generate the.
I don't think it's gonna be an ordinance or anything like that. I think it's gonna be a
Maybe a selection of different ideas that probably doesn't fit neatly into one box, so. You can sort it out and figure out, this should be an action item that's over here, this needs a tweak in the code, this needs, something else, maybe. So, we're not quite there yet.
Bert, did you want to talk about that?
And related to the question you just asked, yeah, and of course, we had spoken with the mayor, some of the items that needs to be addressed with regard to efficiency. And one of the things that was discussed for things coming out of the planning commission meeting, and how efficient is the planning commission addressing development matters, And for example, I know there was an item that went before the planning commission at its last meeting that was on the consent agenda. But I believe when the mayor inquired about what it entailed, I think he indicated, Wayne, that on consent, there was no information included with it. This was related to the Planet Fitness development. And so I think, and you'd be surprised how things like that might affect the operational efficiency within government, because we've got business concerns asking, how can we get through the development process more quickly, more efficiently? And when you have something approved by the planning commission and we don't know what it is, it just makes it rather difficult to have it on consent without any info. And it came up today because we were looking for specifically what was it that the planning commission approved. And all we know is it's something that was on the consent agenda. And so we're told later that for this project, signs were, the building has 2 signs, only one was approved. Maybe, Jeff, I don't know if you were there.
No, I wasn't.
And so to determine, all right, for this business to really, sink its roots here in Wyandotte County, it has to get through that process. And if in fact it was approved, but with only 1 sign and 2 are required for it to operate, then how do you get there? And so I know the mayor was suggesting that maybe, and this is what gets back to what you're saying, Dwayne, about a resolution going before the commission, that things like that can come before the commission, as well as the Unified Government Commission, as well as the Planning Commission, for clarification. And that's why I think I pursued some discussion with you, Jeff, with regard to chapter 27. Didn't realize this was going to come up again today. But I know that the mayor would like some of your recommendations, meaning from the efficiency committee, to go before the Unified Government Commission as quickly as possible, to start the process, so that, like I heard you talking about the use of 311 to communicate with department managers when employees are off or needing to be off. How then, if employees can't reach their managers or the department head and they are required to report their absence, how then do you make things more efficient besides 311? Because I can tell you, in my opinion, 311 doesn't work. If you want something to die, send it to the 311 system. And so that could be the case too for employees trying to communicate with their managers. And so, but again, as it relates to development matters, and you have to forgive me, I focus mostly on development. That's been my career choice.
What did you want to discuss the land bank thing? Was the complaints that we actually heard in the Wyandotte County Against Crime meeting that I heard from a couple of people from one of the neighborhood groups, was land bank property that's being transferred or disposed of, and they're building on the land bank property that just goes from the land bank to the developer. Standing committee for the developer without any process through the commission or anything else. And that was what the mayor asked was, well, why does this not go for approval by anybody other than from one standing committee to the developer. And what brought it about is one of the neighborhood groups had a house built on land bank property. They got a building permit approved. They built a house and I haven't seen the house, but they said it has no back door. And the person building the house is building others on land bank property without any oversight other than a building permit, which I don't know how that is, but the mayor asked, you know, with these things.
I don't know how you get a permit to build a property without proper ingress egress, no back door, but I mean, if that's.
And the question is, can there be a resolution or it may be an ordinance that has to be changed that land bank property has to be, when it's transferred to a developer, whatever they do is approved through the commission.
Yeah, I think the issue.
Well, if I could cut in, I was just gonna say really quick, because I'm experiencing this next door to my property. And the problem is a systemic problem in the planning and zoning department, because they have no problem getting anything done and passed through and making quote unquote administrative decisions that don't come in front of the commission when it's a developer that they want to help. You know, all you got to do is throw the word LIHTC around and things just slide on through, you know, but it's a systemic problem with the people that are making administrative decisions and not following the citywide master plan requirements, not following when they want to, you know, make amendments to things. They're not going through the processes. I mean, that you talk about accountability, there's absolutely no accountability in planning and zoning. Present company excluded, Dwayne. I mean more the department that's being paid to do it.
This
If you want to say, Dwayne, that Board of Commissioners is the land bank Board of Trustees, so I don't know what to say that the commissioners were cut out of the process. They are the land bank for all intents and purposes. So if it transferred from the land bank to a developer with some conditions,
but they're not approving what the development is. That's the thing. That they're not.
Well, and I think here's what the issue is, that, and because I've had discussions with Jed Knapp, the land bank manager, as well, about when applications go into the land bank. I think Jed assumes his job is to dispose of land bank property. His job is not to determine if the development proposed is appropriate for that disposal. And I think there are those that desires to have that as a part of his job. So if, and I've run into this as well. If you are interested in acquiring a piece of property and building something on it, you need to know what that something is, because we've seen, for example, in a subdivision that has homeowner declarations, if it fits within that homeowner declaration, that's fine. But if it doesn't, there's no need to establish an option for that property, because when they go for their building permit, they're gonna find it doesn't meet the declaration for the area. So you've wasted, and so you've given that party an option for a year. And so it's gonna sit there in a holding pattern for at least a year. And so I think, you know, so what can be done about that in terms of efficiency? I think if there was a requirement that the land bank manager, when he disposes and makes recommendations to the land bank board, that he knows that what is being proposed fits the criteria for that area, fits the zoning and et cetera. And so I think what the mayor would like to see in terms of efficiency is, if you agree with that, then there should be a resolution going to the commission and the land bank board of trustees stipulating that. I mean, let's face it, just like we in here can't tell the land bank manager how to do his job, there needs to be criteria that makes it a workable arrangement in terms of disposing of that property.
Yeah, and uh, the question was, I don't know whether you were at the meeting or not, the land bank meeting, when the developer was gonna put manufactured homes on a lot down by City Park. And they were gonna give him the lot, but it's a big lot. And they said, well, are you gonna build more than one? And he said, oh, well, no, I'll just divide it up later and build more. But the thing is, there's no oversight with the commission. They're giving these lots away and basically building whatever they want on there without the development being approved by the commission, I think, as far as what the building is. That's the thing we ran into in St. Peter's when they were gonna build the tiny homes on the small lot up there, and people didn't even know about it. So that's the question that
I have a question.
brought up.
When they build on a new property, they supposed to put up, some kind of sign saying building permit, this is what we're allowed to do here. Is that normal? I mean, so person like me ride by and say, oh, they got a building permit, instead of waiting until they already get built, then you be fighting and trying to get them to tear it down.
No.
Because they didn't follow the instructions.
And if it's being rezoned, you'll see signs out front showing that the applicant is seeking rezoning. But on a building permit, yeah, if you're just wanting to know what's going on with that property, you'll probably see once they have a structure up, the posting of that permit, but that still gives you no information about the design.
Yeah.
What it's gonna look like, et cetera. So if you're saying, let's say for land bank property, you need to know that in advance. Now, it is required that when one makes application for land bank property, that they go through and meet with the neighborhood entity, be it a homeowners association, an NBR, what have you, to share those plans, and that NBR homeowners association should sign off on that when the property goes through the land bank board of trustees for conveyance.
Okay, this is at 12th and Haskell. They don't have a home association. But this fellow has built a garage to fix on oversized trucks and those large loading things. Now
And
he's,
see for 12th and Haskell.
yeah, go
I
across
see
on left hand side.
more involved. When there's no neighborhood association,
No.
I thought Groundworks reviewed those to make sure it fits within the character.
Well, they have built an oversized garage.
Is
flat
that
circle.
down there?
Nora,
Yeah, I was looking for my hand to raise it, but I don't see it. So thanks for calling my name. First of all, some of the things Lavert is saying, we spoke to at our September 9th and July 29th meeting presentation, Beverly Easterwood and I, Bob Hughes, and some of the neighborhood presidents to the standing committee, the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee. Second of all, there is no requirement, as it used to be, Lavert, you might remember that there was a solid requirement that the applications come before the neighborhood groups, and minutes were taken and distributed. There's no requirement. We're working on that. We're getting the feeling that the commissioners are more amenable to that than what they were like a couple of years ago. The other thing is on what you're talking about. WD's talking about something that I don't believe it came through the land bank. It was just something. Correct me if I'm wrong, WD. That house has been, I don't know what you say, remodeled, repurposed, rather
there
than a
was a
single
lot
family.
next door.
Yeah, but that lot, as far as I know, didn't come through the land bank. Maybe it was a private lot, or maybe they purchased it on the market. Didn't
Okay.
necessarily have to come through the land bank. And on this other part about the no back door, it's my understanding that the inspection has to occur once the building has been completed, construction's been completed. Isn't that correct?
Right, yeah, should be.
So that would seem like that's an area there in inspection. And I would agree that the declarations and things of a covenant should come before the land bank manager or that staff. There's a staff advisory board as well as a land bank advisory board. And someone, a representative from staff, it would seem, planning's on there. There are others that are on there that should be unknown. We do have a situation in Peregrine Falcon where we have 2 lots that are on hold on an option because there's a violation of the covenant, and really need to check and see whether or not it's going to be more than a year, because now we're holding up possible production as a result of a void in the process and not knowing about that covenant. So did I answer your question? I know I said several things. Okay.
And of course, since you brought up the option term, I don't know if you all discussed it in the standing committee, Elnora, that currently, I believe the land bank manager has the ability to extend the term. And you're right, there are several options that are 3 years into the option term, and the land bank manager can extend those. There is at least a desire to require that if a land bank property has been held for a year under that option agreement, that to extend it, that only the land bank board of trustees or the commission should have the ability to extend it. That way there would be a review, as opposed to having land held under an option for more than a year with no review. Now, I think there is also the desire to have that option term start at the approval date of the land bank board of trustees, as opposed to, for example, we know of one situation where the board of trustees approved the option. It took staff 8 months to get the option agreement signed. And it was, the option was just about up before it was signed. And so if it's tied to the approval date, then that forces everyone to diligently pursue whatever the development plan is for that option.
Sure, I understand. And on that discretion by the land bank manager at the very beginning of those meetings, land bank policy meetings, which were held once a month, that was a discussion that went back and forth. Is exactly how much discretion and latitude the manager would have. But I clearly see your point of view on that. The only question that I have on that options lease, and I might not know it intimately enough, but hopefully this is a good question, is if there is a need to do a site and environmental assessment on that property, does that, is that 180 days, does that start when the option lease is approved? Or, well, I guess maybe I'm answering my own question. That 180 days is something that needs to go, that occurs prior to the transfer of that deed. Conveyance is the right word. Conveyance from the land bank to the owner. So, yeah, as long as there's a period of time for that.
Yeah, and I think that at least the mayor is of the opinion that once it's approved, then if it requires an environmental review, that's within you've got to get it done within your 365-day time frame for that option. And if you're challenged by it, you have to come back to the trustee board to extend that option, and you can present your justification for that extension. Maybe it's because it took me half of my term to get the environmental review done. And I think that came about because of the belief that land is being conveyed and just held and nothing's happening. So I don't know how you look at that in terms of efficiency. But if land's being held, no development's happening, it's kind of a waste of everyone's time.
Well, I'll tell you, this whole explanation is why we have all this land bank property now. It sounds complicated.
It's really
I don't know.
not that complicated, but I mean, if you enter into an option agreement and staff has discretion to extend it. And let's say you've gotten 3 extensions and the public doesn't know, nor does the trustee board, nor does the commission know why it's not happening. I think if there is a requirement that it goes back before the commission trustee board to get that extension, then at least it's more transparent and there would be public knowledge about what caused the delays.
Yeah, that's.
And I know, I think the mayor would like, what he's hoping you as a committee would recommend such to the full commission, even vote on it, record your vote so that the message is sent. I mean, if these are operational matters, giving guidance to the commission and the county administrator, here's what we think needs to happen to make the conveyance of land bank property more operationally efficient.
Yes, I remember, recommended, yeah.
Yeah, how do you, I'm sure you can come somewhere in the office here to tell you, but it's a lot of land availabilities in the Northeast area. And I'm seeing different things that's done to land, not, and my understanding, because some property costs me that we try to obtain for family things, we have to build them within a year. But I'm seeing land that people are putting concrete slab, concrete down, parking commercial trailers on it. Someone's putting concrete slab down, putting commercial trailers on it. How do you go by finding out the status on that property? And it's a lot of it in the Northeast. I'm sure the list is long as state of Kansas. A problem that's there and people are utilizing it in a wrong manner. Gotta be, because if you're putting concrete slab on it, it's supposed to build on it. From my understanding, you build a house on it.
Have they changed that? Eleanor, do you know if they've changed that? If you have land bank property, you have so long to build on it, or are they allowing
It's a year.
undeveloped property? They're working on that, Victor. They were discussing something. Bynum was discussing one time about if it's contingent property to your lot, that you don't have to build on it. You can get that property. Now, I don't know whether they've changed that or not.
That'd be a yard extension.
Yeah.
And
You already out
that's-
there. Go on over. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's, you would not necessarily have to build on a yard extension property. However, there are codes that govern how much concrete you can put down. I mean, you can't get a 25-foot parcel, as a yard extension and then concrete it. I mean, you've got, I can't recall the
There's a
percentage
percentage
of green.
green space you have to have.
And so, but I will tell you, and I think we all know, generally, when you see that kind of activity, Mr. Harris, you'll find that happening on weekends when people know there are no codes officers to check to see if it's a legitimate permit to lay a slab to park a vehicle on. But yeah, there are requirements that you have to meet on that. And I don't know of any situation where we are supposed to sell land bank property for to allow the property to be paved to park commercial or non-commercial vehicles. Well,
Because the zoning plays a difference in that, right? Because this one, because I'm gonna pick that lady up, she gonna ride with me. Properties that I'm seeing where there's a house, concrete slab, it's extended, and then you got gravel, one of those dump trailers that you pull behind the truck. It's like 3 in park in a residential area. One is on the concrete slab, the other 2 is on the gravel, and the gravel just sprayed completely. all over the place. So I mean, what is going, how are they? That property, what is it, that zone for commercial, or how are they getting by doing that? And it's a lot, it's a lot of.
Well, that's the whole thing with the land bank property like that. It doesn't go to planning and zoning commission or anything unless it needs to be rezoned, a variance or a special use permit. And that was the question that was brought up with in the neighborhood where they were there's a developer that's getting land bank property. He's not putting the land use sign up or anything. He's just getting the land bank property and he's building houses on there. And they were saying that the houses were kind of substandard and didn't fit in the neighborhood that it was being built in. So that's the thing. Are they approving these plans for these houses to make sure they fit in the neighborhood? Or are they just turning the property over the land bank or whoever it is and then letting the person just build what they want? Because that's the problem was they said that the houses were small, they didn't fit in the neighborhood, and there's 14 people living in this one house, and they think it impacts the neighborhood, which that's part of the idea of going to planning and zoning and things like that is to make sure that the development fits in within the development that you're building. So that's, you know, I don't know how that's needs to be addressed or.
I might say that all land bank applications are not required to go through planning and zoning. It's
Right.
only, as Levert was talking, if there's a zoning issue or there's whatever stated in that chapter 27.
A
And
special
as
use
well as
permit
the
or
ordinance.
variance.
Right. And so, and there is a land bank advisory board, so the neighborhoods and the MBR that actually is a member of that land bank advisory board, is supposed to look at that and ask, look at the diagrams and challenge, what is presented. So, and as well as staff as well, there's certain requirements on size and use and whether or not there's sewer facilities and so forth. All of that goes on that application before it goes through. But however, I would have to say that downstream from the land bank is that the building permits, and what is asked there, I do not know. That's an area that I know we've suggested in our recommendation that neighborhood groups, MBRs, be educated on what happens downstream. And I might say that those applications now are approved by the standing committee. You have about 4 or 5 commissioners, and then it goes through the full commission, as will happen here on the 26th. And usually it's on the consent agenda, and usually it's the very last item that the Board of Trustees hears, which could be at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So there's not always a lot of appetite to go into detail on that.
All right, but I think what is being sought is a message to be conveyed to the land bank manager that it's his job, if you will, to make certain that what he sells or conveys this land for, it can be used for that purpose. And in my opinion, you can't do that without a thorough review of what is being proposed on the land. It's kind of like, does it meet their neighborhood declarations? Does it meet that? Does it meet the zoning, et cetera? Is the design such that it's acceptable through the neighborhood? Does it meet the narrow lot design, or are you acquiring a large property to subdivide it to put more than one narrow lot designed homes on it? I mean, that, in my opinion, needs to be determined up front when the land is conveyed, and I think that's
That's where we're talking about how efficient is the land being used, because when I looked at some of these land bank properties down in the north end they were talking about, is we have an entire block that is land bank property that's city owned, and then you build a tiny home in the middle of the block. Well, what else are you gonna build in that block, because you just destroyed the ability to combine that and make it a bigger lots or commercial property or whatever, because all you're gonna be able to build there is more of what you already started building, because you put it right in the middle of everything. So that's, I don't know, something we need to maybe address with land bank people or whatever.
So got a question here. So when I've read the land bank proposals that come to the committee and they come in and they say, this person's applied for this XYZ. There's always that column on the side that says, why do you want this property? So are you saying that that process is not thorough enough to identify the design? What did you say? Review the design, the appropriate use, the utility access. None of that information is on that particular application.
That's correct. It's fairly general.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like what Mr. Deputy said for the lots in parenting. And again, I know this because I spoke with the land bank manager about it to find out, why didn't you have this information? The response was, that's not my job to determine. My job is to get rid of the land. And so in general, he collects the information, and I don't know how many applications you'll see with the statement, I'm gonna build a house for my cousin, for my sister, for my mother. Don't know if that's, and so, but do you have the financing to actually carry out the plan that you are presenting? Or is this speculation? And so I think the request is to have enough information to know this is a legitimate request and that it's going to fit within the character of the neighborhood.
So who's responsible for, so you get the land option, you have a year to do something with it. Is it just hands off of that process after that? Nobody's following through on that? Is there not communication with the individual or the corporation or whoever it is? What then is your design? Because that seems to me that that's just like dropping it into.
Yeah, and I think the land bank office for that year sits back and wait to see if they're gonna get a building permit. And I think there is also the assumption that once you pursue that building permit, all of these questions are gonna be addressed. Does it fit within the character of the zoning and the neighborhood appearance and structure?
So if they never get a building permit and they do what Victor was saying, let's put a slab on it.
There's been instances like that.
And so what's the follow through on that? I mean,
You should make them tear it out, son.
right,
Build,
they should not,
make it tear it down.
And that's not widespread. I mean, there's been instances, but generally the applicant has to get a permit and do what they have proposed, or do something similar.
if they don't, then it reverts back to the land bank.
Well, I don't know, because, for example, I know of a case on 9th and Walker where the developers came in. These were gonna be two houses next to each other, slab on grade. They put in somewhat of a foundation and some plumbing stubs for both. But you've got pictures of for both homes.
At the walk.
Now it's all weeded, and what they put in sits amongst the weeds. And it's been that way for over a year.
Sure is.
And so when then does that, because they've not carried out their plan, when does it go back into the land bank? And because they made some improvements or put some structures on the property, and I mean, does that give us the ability to bring someone that's gonna take advantage of those, you know, slabs and foundations?
That lady bought a pipes and it looked like you put a lot of rock down and it was concrete, but it wasn't a slab that you were going for. It's real shady looking. Weeds are growing on it. I gotta look.
And if that's what you were referring to, yeah, that's not designed to park vehicles on it.
It's more.
They started building homes that they abandoned.
So it should go back to the land bank, right?
Well, but, okay, or maybe it should be torn out and then gone, then presented back to the land
Or-
bank, because somebody's gonna have to,
Right.
yeah, pay the cost of either taking that out or building on it.
Weeds all around. Hey.
Yeah, they get a bill, they can leave.
Or low-
Because they didn't fulfill their obligation, or they purchase back to the land bank and they get lien and water, they clean it up. Right. That should be in the original agreement in the land bank, then.
And so, but these are the kinds of things that I know we like guidance on and recommendations presented to the commission and the land bank board of trustees and the administrator to make that system work or work more efficiently.
There's definitely something not efficient when we have that many land bank properties and when we have that big a problem of disposing of them.
So can I ask you a question?
I may not be able to answer.
Well, if you can't. that's
But you can
fine.
expand.
Somebody in this room can. So just finishing what we're doing on our agenda today, we've discussed some of the recommendations. How are we gonna get that formalized and set? Who's gonna be responsible for that?
You are.
I have enough on my bag right
I
now.
told you wouldn't like my answer. We will, probably the next meeting, we'll have to sit down and we'll prioritize them. And how do we do that? How do you want that, Jeff? You want like,
Next, you prioritize it, put it in some form and goes to the mayor's office and.
some written form?
then my guess is.
So most of the task force have put it into, just kind of a written, it could be a statement, some of them have documentation to attach. In written form and just really kind of talking through with the mayor. He generally speaking will say, have we talked to staff? How much do we need to work with staff? And then when it's ready, it goes to legal. Legal gets kind of that flushes out kind of that what we're looking for in order to either change or add or create.
So I should have more input from Crystal. She just sent me this outline right before the meeting. So the next meeting, we'll actually sit down, we'll write something down, prioritize that, what she can do now and what we want to see farther down the road and how we want it to work, and then we'll submit it.
Forgive me, I don't, who's Crystal?
Crystal Sprague, the manager of 311.
Right, okay. Well, and
She gave me an outline of what she wanted us to recommend.
yeah, I didn't know it was Crystal Confederates. And forgive me, I know it's in and out, but I think that because there are 50, 60 or more parcels headed towards the land bank board of trustees for conveyance, I think the mayor was looking for some guidance so that the staff will know, here are the kinds of things you need to look at before you convey this. And so I know that's why I was hoping Jeff could develop a resolution that you would support that gives guidance to the land bank office, to the commission and the land bank board of trustees as these parcels are being conveyed. I think one critical part was make sure that if they're gonna need an extension to the 1-year option, that it goes back before the board of trustees, as opposed to letting the staff just continue to extend these. That's one point. The other was, look at what's proposed critically to make sure it fits. And so the question then becomes, if we support that, if Jeff can develop a resolution to that effect to go before the commission on the 26th, maybe blue sheeted.
Do we want to add in there about the to make it official about dividing up the parcel sizes.
I think the,
But
I think,
not-
I think the administrator has given a message to the land bank manager that they should stop selling parcels larger than what is needed for that development, meaning a person would take an option and build something small and sell the rest to build something else on. As I understand it, the staff can no longer do that. Do you know, Jeff? Yeah, I'm told that the administrator conveyed that message to the land bank manager, but.
But if you would put this in the resolution, if he supports that, then that solves that problem, and it solves the problem of selling these big parcels and dividing or dividing them up into small parcels, and then
But by the same token, you got a lot of parcels that are 25 feet.
yeah.
That's all you can do with that shotgun house.
In some neighborhoods where you know, and I can think of a number of neighborhoods where you have 10, 25-foot parcels
Mhm.
sitting together.
Mhm.
Well, you don't need to sell them as 25, you sell them as maybe 4 50-footers, you know, so that you get a larger structure on it instead of just promoting the development of narrow lot design or tiny homes.
And what a lot of these are becoming is they're not houses for sale. They're becoming small home rental houses that are not really benefit the neighborhood. If we own the land back property, we should be combining these lots and selling, bigger lots for bigger developments, bigger houses, but
And all this comes under the land bank board of trustees, right? Your commission,
Yes,
right?
but again, though,
What rest-
understand that when the land bank board of trustees receives information from the land bank office representing a conveyance as requested by a prospective purchaser, they don't know necessarily that these are lots that could have been combined to build something bigger, to fit more within the character of the neighborhood. All they know is what's given to them. And so I guess what would be helpful is if you could provide some guidance, and if you've got 10, 25-foot lots, you don't have to build 10 narrow lot designed homes. You can, to make the neighborhood better, you can build 4 regular size conventional homes on those. And as I see it, I mean, given the changing economy, I think there's interest in building, regular size homes. It's kind of like what was going on in Peregrine Falcon. Yes, if developers can build rental homes in stable neighborhoods, how best to guarantee you're going to get your rental payments by putting these within stable neighborhoods. But it destabilizes the neighborhood to have a tiny home, change the character of a stable neighborhood.
I've got one. From a planning perspective, if you have a block with 10, 25-foot lots, why not be proactive, go in there and just change the lots? I mean, that's a pretty simple process.
that's what I've been saying for
Thank you.
several years. And if you want to market commercial development for commercial income, you got a whole block full of 25-foot lots. Make them one big commercial parcel and bring in a business or something like that. And
Because that takes a little bit out of the hands of land bank, hoping that someone will do what you're saying, combine them, just eliminate that whole thing. If we have that opportunity, let's go on there. If that's what we want, it's part of the long-term master plan. It's a really simple, painless process just to move those lots. Really simple.
yeah,
And so I certainly agree with you, and that's the kind of guidance I think they're looking for.
If you could move the lines to make them smaller, you can move the lines to make them bigger.
Just changing a few words on the
Yeah.
plat, it's really simple.
Yeah.
And so Jeff, I guess that brings it back to you. Is that something you can develop into a resolution to present to the commission?
Not sure we've reached an agreement with it. I've heard some different proposals, so, I mean. We reached a consensus? I mean, I shouldn't say we, have you reached a consensus?
I mean, just in my opinion, we need to think maybe look a little longer term on some of these land bank stuff. And get it to fit the city's master plan. The 25-foot lots go back to factory days when we didn't even have
Oh, well,
public
yeah,
transportation, and
yeah.
we needed high density. That's just not the case anymore. Let's go in, if we had the chance to alter the lots to make it more what the city wants to do
So,
per the master plans.
so
And
Levert,
what the community wants, because
and-
nobody wants to live, have row houses and shotgun houses
we don't want-
in the neighborhood. That's not.
that's not improving the neighborhood.
No.
This
So
is
here
El,
you have-
this is Elnora. And I don't know if there's a rush to get this done prior to the 26th. Is there an overarching need to where we can't talk about this a little bit more? It's always been it's always been my experience, because there are several moving parts, that it would be beneficial to actually understand what we're doing and why we're doing it before we submit a resolution and find out after the fact, oh, we missed a particular piece. But I
Okay.
did hear you say, Lavert, that the mayor was interested in getting this before the 26th. Am I correct in that?
You know, for the meeting on the 26th. And, you know, I think he's looking at it as a start, particularly as it relates to land bank property, and not a final, that here's what we can do to make the management of and disposition of land bank properties more efficient. Obviously, more things will come up. And so this would be resolution number 1. But there would be follow-up.
And that outline, can tell everybody what the resolution this one would say, specifically what we're talking about. I know Jeff's been taking notes on that.
Well, that the land bank manager will collect as much information required to determine what exactly will go on that property and whether or not it fits within the character of certainly fits zoning requirements, the character of the neighborhood, and if there are restrictive covenants that governs that neighborhood, if it fits those requirements, and an absolute requirement that there will be input from the neighborhood association or the NBR for that area. Because right now, I think it's
If
kind
they
of
don't
hit or
have
miss.
If they don't have an NBR
Right.
or is there a notification to the neighbors out there? That
There
it's
should
required
be.
to be sent out?
There should be, yeah, that should be a part of it as well.
And would that resolution include the process for getting extensions, or is that?
Yes.
Resolution?
That the manager has the ability to enter into a 1-year option. Any extensions goes back to the Land Bank Board of Trustees and the Unified Government Commission. Kind of hear consensus regarding that. There may be some other things, but I know, Elnor, you were thinking that, you know, it perhaps is not all inclusive, but understanding that it's a start to a bigger process. Does that mitigate the concerns?
Yes, because I'm not hearing that discussion, which is a good discussion on lot size and putting those puzzle pieces together. It kind of goes along in something that I was thinking of is how to arrange those sizes, those neighborhoods and so forth, to not only attract the residential development, but also to raise the value of the census tract. and attract commercial development as well.
Yeah.
If that's something that we can discuss later, I would be all into that and agree with what's been said so far on the resolution.
Yeah, that could be like the first resolution, but then I agree, we can discuss the parcel sizes and that also.
And I'd like to add one other piece too. Even if you have a neighborhood group or an NBR in the area, the neighbors need to be notified.
Yeah,
So that shouldn't be and or, that should be
Can-
all.
can we make
inclusive there.
a notification of that also? What do you, normally it's 200 feet, what do you think?
That's too small.
Yeah, yeah, we've even discussed expanded notification. What do you think, Levert?
I'm like
Johnson County,
fiscal hat on, but
Johnson County's
it's still is 50 cents. What's our rate? 50 cents each. But if maybe the developer or the person seeking the parcel can be charged a fee to manage that postage. But I agree, all of the neighbors within a neighborhood should be informed through a mailer. And 200 feet is not
Come to the
sufficient.
neighborhood group meeting and.
And
have input.
the mailers as well.
yeah, some of these parcels are so big that even 500 feet, you're not gonna reach people,
Well, I've got two thoughts. A lot of times when you go around, you're looking at commercial developments, right? They'll put a big sign out someplace. All right, but what it's called, what it's gonna look like, or said. How hard would that be to have a big sign, so by so, that you could see whether you got a letter in the mail or not? Just driving through that area, you would see this sign, whatever. The second part, what this reminds me of, is a good old fashioned flow chart. Of just, you want to do this, okay, then this, you're gonna do this, yes, no, you go here. I mean, it sounds like we're kind of there, but it just needs to start with the application. What do you want to do? Business, okay, here. Residential, here, etc. I mean, just make it like that. Are we gonna fit into the neighborhood? Are we gonna fit in with the character? Is there a neighborhood association?
well, we put out land use things, some signs, so I don't know why you couldn't do that for land bank property, a land use, so people in the neighborhood know that land bank's property's been sold or they're gonna build something there.
Well, maybe on bigger things, like you were talking, a big 25 or 10 lots, 20 or block or something. One of those little signs that can fall over in a decent wind
That's some land use signs.
doesn't quite cut it. I mean, it wouldn't take much to print up or have something posted on there that was professional. So I could walk up and go, oh, okay, they're gonna change these lots, but I can see the stuff right there.
And I passed one like that today, a land use action notification, a solid sign.
Yeah.
Okay, that people could see, would not get knocked over by the weather, and people could read the information on it and know what's coming.
Because it's not fair, in my opinion, to put the burden on the average citizen to go chase down who's doing this, where are they doing it, who's sponsoring it, what are they changing it? No, make it obvious. That should be the requirement of the developer. I mean, maybe not every single lot, but anytime we get over maybe so many square feet or whatever, that they have to put up a sign, kind of like you see all over town every single day with the detail, what the lot's gonna look like. So the average Joe could just walk up there and go, oh, okay. They don't have to go call the city. They don't have to go through 311. They don't have to leave a message with planning. So if they want to, they can, but at least this way, they can at least have a good idea what's going on. Number one, flow chart. Am I interested in this? Yes. Okay, go bye bye. If I'm not, done.
Yeah.
Let's go over and above, I think, the notification things, whatever. That's one of the things.
The focus to make it more efficient to deal with these properties or to have greater. Feels like, I don't think you do both.
I think it's combined. I think we want to have criteria so that when that land bank property is conveyed, that we know there's going to be results within a certain amount of time. And those results are going to meet the criteria set forth by the current existing regulations of the HOA or the UG
when it comes to what can and cannot happen on that property. So I think it contains both. That's just me, what I'm hearing.
And to stop at the beginning, for the land bank manager following through a certain process, capture that information early on. So you don't then have delays further down the road. So maybe people won't need that extension if they know what they have to accomplish at the very beginning. And I'm sure it's probably somewhere in the, but you're saying that the land bank manager is not capturing that data at the beginning of the process.
Well, and part of the things that makes it more efficient is it's a lot easier. I've looked at some of the lots, you know, that are in the areas of small, it's a lot quicker and easier to dispose of 2 big lots than it is 20 foot lots. Because, you know, you have to find somebody that's gonna want them little bitty lots.
All I can see is St. Louis, where you can reach out your window and touch your neighbor.
And we have a large,
Okay, exactly.
yeah, we have a large number of lots, but if you if you were to make them all a normal sized building lot, which most people have, the number of lots we have would shrink significantly by probably half.
And the value would be high, because you
The
can.
value would be high,
Square feet.
and they would be more marketable.
Shortly.
Yeah,
It really,
so we need to start wrapping this up though.
Yeah.
We're-
just one last thing.
Maureen's gonna fall asleep and
No, I'm not, I'm just trying, she was having, Miss, Jefferson was having trouble with the Zoom, so I was trying to keep her abreast.
One last comment. It just appears to me that the land bank is missing a planner component. Not planning a planner, someone who's become in well-versed in, the city plan, the master plan for that area. And be able to work with what can work in that area and whatnot. The land bank guy, from what I'm hearing, that's not his job. He doesn't want to do that. Somebody's got to do that.
And you're absolutely correct, but there are some master plans and there's a lot of discussion about that now. But there are some master plans that neighborhoods are now challenging because they feel that the master plan is not correct. It brings forth a zoning classification for that neighborhood that's not correct, and they want them changed.
Yep.
So with the kind of changes we're discussing for the land bank conveyances, it may fit those changes coming about or proposed for these master plans. And I say that so that you understand that if you tie your recommendations into a given master plan, that may not work because that master plan may need to change.
That happens all the time. Who's going to be more up to date on that but a city planner? I would hope a city planner. I used to call them an all-star. You have 1 or 2 people that know these things, know that one neighborhood wants to change their thing. And they can convey that to just lost the name, but the land bank people. Oh, this neighborhood changed their thing 2 years ago. Oh, they want to do this. Oh, okay.
Ms. Jefferson says that the staff advisory board already does what being discussed. And she suggests, to do something small and then build upon it like you recommended. And Ms. Jefferson with me or Lavert?
Hi, okay, I'm sorry. I was listening to
What
you
was
read
that
my
last?
comment. The
I
part
was,
about the land, time, I see that. The part about having some oversight on the extension of the options lease is just what I understood was Lavert's first point. I see that. That to me seems to be relatively easy. But when we get into some of the other things about what should be looked at, the staff advisory board made up of the planning and several other departments look at these applications before they come to the advisory board, before Judd presents them to the advisory board. So my only thing is this: is that if we take something simple that's doable, that makes sense really, and then build upon it for the more complicated or involved applications, that'd be great. As the master plans do talk to the narrow lot design for the northeast area, except for Peregrine Falcon. And then zoning has not been done. We stopped the zoning process a few years ago, and that has to restart. So you're absolutely on time with this whole discussion needs to be had. In my opinion, just to put a resolution together with all of these various things would mean that we may need to go back and revisit it and not have all the information that's needed to make a good decision. But I support Laverta when he came here, the couple of things that he came here with at the beginning there. Now, the only other thing I would say, Laverta, I don't know if that needs to go. You're more expert than I, but does that need to go to the Land Bank Board of Trustees, which actually does approve the options, or goes back to the standing committee? If to go back to the standing committee to determine whether or not that application should have more than 1 year extension. That I don't know, but I would leave up to your expertise to know that.
I think the mayor would like to see it go to the full commission, who serves again as a land bank board of trustees, so that the commission gives some direction and guidance to the land bank board of trustees and to the land bank manager or management office through the county administrator. So if
A
you
point of
can,
clarification. Is the commission, the UG commission, the land bank board of trustees?
yes,
Well, why would you have them go back to themselves? I don't.
well,
Under
they
that,
have,
where
they
that-
have separate roles, but yeah, I mean, the land bank board of trustees don't set policy for the city.
Mhm.
The commission does, or establish policy. So yeah, they're talking to themselves, but maybe Jeff can answer that better, but the commission would establish that policy that the land bank board of trustees would follow.
I think the land bank board of trustees was set up pursuant to statute, so then there's that. We can't really impose something that's skew from what the statutes say, so there's a hierarchy to follow.
Right, well, but the land bank board of trustees does not give directions to staff. Only the administrator does that, but the commission provides direction to the administrator. So I think these are some policy issues.
The assumption is that the county administrator has ultimate authority over personnel matters, direction of staff.
So, and again, I would suggest let them sort that out if it's a matter of talking to themselves, but I think a resolution would effectively give them guidance.
That, Eleanor, is that good for you?
On the points, the resolution will contain the
Yeah,
2
well,
points.
Levert, the two points Levert brought up.
And that was the options piece, and also the other was what was the other? Your first, what was it?
The extensions and then providing guidance on not so much selling small when there is an opportunity to combine tiny lots that are together to get a better development to do that, as opposed to focusing on selling a lot of tiny lots.
You're talking about the assemblage of lots, which is in the policy. The assemblage of lots, right?
Yes.
Like for a subdivision, is that what you're saying?
No, to make it bigger lots.
Oh, bigger lots.
Combined.
I would like to,
Bigger.
and the narrow lot design then does not override, would not override this resolution or adoption if it were accepted. the narrow lot design required in east of 635, except for Peregrine Falcon, does not override that? Have any bearing?
Well, here's the, I mean, I think the narrow lot design guidelines were created to address the needs of neighborhoods when the neighborhood is pretty much developed out and what is left are maybe a couple of 25 or 20-foot lots. And so the narrow lot designs allows you to develop those. But I don't, and when that policy was adopted, we didn't have a lot of narrow lots adjacent to each other that gave us the ability to combine them and take them out of the narrow lot category to get more, to get development that would create more stable neighborhoods.
Were they originally narrow lots?
They were
Or were they
originally
divided?
narrow lots.
Yeah, I think originally the concept of the narrow lot ordinance, and it is an ordinance. The narrow lots is to infill houses that will maybe burn down or fall down to replace, like, for instance, on Strawberry Hill, if a house burns down, the ordinance allows them to build another house on the lot to infill the neighborhood that's already there, not to, I don't think the narrow lot design is to build an entire neighborhood of narrow lot row houses.
Well,
Well,
and
that's
I would,
different.
yeah, I would agree that that is unpleasant. So in that regard, I see this as being a positive. And the other thing that has been said, and I know some of this is historical, is that the reason that the narrow lot design was used almost extensively, or desired to be extensively used East 35 is because of the infrastructure, building the density to pay for the infrastructure. And now, but then when you look out in West Kansas, in Kansas City, Wyandotte County, you see all of these lots. So is there something that's coming up on the 26th, Lavert, that speaks to this need to have that in the resolution about combining the narrow lots in a larger parcel? Is there something coming up on the 26th?
Well, there are, the board of land bank trustees will convene. But then, I mean, that's the next commission meeting.
Right.
So I don't know that there's anything that's special.
Okay, because I know we see some applications on Tuesday, the 24th. And I didn't know if what you had seen says we want to get this in place before that. It's just an innocent question in that. Yeah.
That would be nice. To
So-
give some guidance.
Before we leave, so what you're asking right now is develop that resolution as a criteria for conveyance as well? And the extension request go back to the board of trustees and combine lots for bigger size homes? And expand the notification, or what are we condensing this to? What is this resolution specifically for? Criteria for
All of what you
conveyance?
just know.
All of what I noted, okay. Pretty clear.
Again, as
Notification
a
not on
start,
there?
as a start. I'm sorry.
Notification?
Yeah, notifications as well.
Goddamn.
And of course, that's something, I mean, I think if there's general language with regard to notification, meaning to the full extent of our ability to make sure as many residents close to this development is notified as opposed to 200 feet and it's hard to quantify what that distance is. But if we say we would like to see as many residents notified as possible, I think that's general enough to, because if you've got a large parcel and you've got a development and you start looking at, and it's in the middle of that parcel, and 200 feet only gets you to the edge, then, it's general enough to let you use your own discretion about who should be notified to meet that requirement.
Isn't that what got us in trouble? What got us here first was using your own discretion.
Yeah. But I'm liberalizing that. I mean,
I think you'd have to have some kind of some kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're not gonna solve this right. now.
Can't say, well, but if you send out that message, that gives us the ability to refine it in terms of here's what's reasonable as opposed to 200 feet, maybe it's 1,000, maybe it's not decided by distance, but the number of residents surrounding the development parcel. You have to notify X percentage of those residents or something like that. But just by noting that you want as many people notified as possible, that gives you the ability to convey the message that, yeah,
Find that in the next resolution.
yes.
Okay.
Can I add the word in notified and informed? Some
I
kind of
would agree with
information.
Lavert on that. And then also the other condition is that in the Northeast, we have sparsity. 200 feet that is in the planning would not work necessarily for the Northeast. But I would
Yeah.
agree with what Lavert is saying there.
It doesn't work very well anywhere.
No.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna adjourn.
Do you want to vote on that?
Okay,
Make motion?
okay. Somebody wanna make a motion
State it.
to, for the first two items on the resolution? Do you have the number of the items on the resolution, Jeff? Okay.
So I'll make how do you do it? I'll make,
Motion.
Well,
Motion.
I'll make a motion.
I don't know that we have anything substantial, but
That we have a vote and a resolution to establish guidance for the land bank, the disbursement of land bank properties to be in compliance with neighborhood codes and ordinances.
Second that motion.
And planning.
And I think Pam, you read some of that, so you've got notes about. So maybe you can share that with
Oh,
Jeff.
that's discussed.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
So
motion and second.
you wanna include,
I'll second.
Is it possible to take a vote by email so we have a chance to look at the resolution? Is that allowed? To look at the resolution before we vote on it?
Resolution's yet to be drafted, okay.
What's the, yeah.
Is that okay?
so we move to develop the. To get
Yeah,
back to the
I
resolution.
I don't think we have a lot of
Here's what I suggest. Once you guys hammer out exactly what your recommendation is going to be, then you recommend that to the mayor's office. If the mayor wants a resolution, he can do that yesterday. He could come to my office and say, I want A, B, C, and D. But to have that resolution discussed now. It's
in a vacuum, I agree, it's like we're
It's not
doing this in a vacuum.
it's kind of the cart before the horse in a way, and I don't mind drafting it up, but I don't know what you want. And maybe you don't know what you want quite yet. And I'd be happy to draft whatever, if he wants A, B, and C, and D, and it's all laid out, I'll draft it that way. But, to have
I think we're.
it roughed out
Too many-
right now in real time
And not enough information for.
and not finalized.
And I think he'd like to see that coming from the efficiency committee. So maybe your vote would be to direct certain people to put that together.
I direct Lavert to craft a resolution to the mayor on the land bank. Land bank resolution, as we've discussed here. Is that good?
Sound good to me?
Who's got
All right.
Come back.
I'll second.
All right,
It moves it.
is that good, Eleonora?
Well, I can hear you. Unmute.
And so what was it? I'm sorry, Lavert is going to draft the resolution?
Right.
Okay, Okay, and then we'll see it.
We'll be in touch with
We'll
you.
have a document.
You're gonna draft the recommendation of the
I'm gonna
resolution.
get with you and we'll.
Okay.
And will you feed that back to us?
Yes. But at least your vote would direct us to do that.
Okay. And we can send an email out to everybody to see what it is.
Right.
Is that good?
Absolutely.
Is that-
Yeah.
Go
Before
for
it
it.
advances.
Right. Then we can email them out. He's agreeable. Keep it.
Okay, so is there a vote on that?
No, that's been on the rules.
Take care, it's number one priority.
That's what happens when you stay in the long meetings.
So was that voted on?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Eleonora, is that good for you?
Yeah, it sounds like, Lavert's going to draft the recommendations. He's
Victor?
gonna draft recommendations.
Pam?
Jeff will do the,
WD?
Jeff will do
Yes.
the,
Mike?
That is what good, but
Right.
It looks good.
but make sure you cover basic. There you go.
Thank you, Miss Jefferson.
Yeah, I need to
Thank
talk
you.
to-
No.
Thank you.
Good job seeing you anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.